Well, we could talk about that one now.
Let's talk about it
The
now.
I guess technically that wasn't a project that came forward.
Correct.
That
That's why I'm
required consideration under the act for inclusion or exclusion, but it's I'll let you speak to it. I guess it's
Right,
a
that-
possibility.
That 42-unit project was on 0.8 acres, and that nets out to it grosses out to a density of 52.5 to the acre. Now, the parking for that site was one parking space per dwelling unit. That was what was being proposed, 42 parking spaces for 42 units. The state's residential site improvement standards, there's two standards I want to talk about. The conventional one, they break out requirements based on 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom units. But as a general review, they talk about 2 spaces per unit. The other standards are for a 1 bedroom, it's a 1.8 parking spaces per unit. For 2 bedrooms, it's 2.0, and for 3 bedrooms, it's 2.3 spaces per unit. But if you just use 2 as a general rule of thumb.
There's a required bedroom distribution, and then anyway, that would basically require something of approximately 2 units on average.
Yes, and that would be
so that's the logic
80,
of using the 2-unit average.
and that would be 84 parking spaces versus the 42 that were being proposed. Now, I will also point out that around train stations is often used as the standard is often used as 1.5 parking spaces per unit, recognizing that people will be using mass transit to a certain degree. But even at that standard, that would suggest that they needed 63 parking spaces to meet the needs of that facility. And they were coming in with 42 parking spaces. That's a heck of a shortfall. And it was for that reason, for those reasons, that we were having discussions with the developer and talking about quite a bit fewer number of units on the site. And when they chose not to reduce the number, we suggested maybe we could look at another site, or they could look at another site and come back to us. But they stayed pushing this one property. And I know there were some financial implications as well that were of significance.
Right, and before I get into that, just looking at the big picture. So the site in question, which had been the Broad Street West site originally, is 4 parcels, 3 of which are city-owned currently. Lot 1 is the Chestnut lot, the public Chestnut parking lot. Lot 2 is privately owned. It serves as parking for the firehouse, as well as a driveway and parking for the adjacent funeral home. Lot 3 is developed with what is now the old firehouse, and Lot 4 is developed with an office building. So again, 3 of the parcels, except for Lot 2, are city-owned. And anyone that's been following development issues in Summit is probably aware that this site has been studied extensively for the last 10 years or so. There's been various proposals and various iterations of zoning frameworks, the most recently of which was adopted last year for the new Morris Broad Crossroads overlay zone, which proposes mixed-use development of the site, which includes a a residential component with a minimum requirement of 7 affordable units. So that's the current zoning on the books. I would offer that through those 10 years of analysis, not necessarily done generally, I believe the city articulated what its vision was for the site based on a number of themes and factors. And this is based on the input of, I believe it was thousands of people in Summit. Thousands of residents gave their input as far as what they wanted to see. Obviously, not everybody had the same exact vision, but I think there were general themes that were articulated through the process. One is that the site serves as a gateway to the downtown. So it's on sort of the western boundary of the gateway. Another was that the site should be developed comprehensively. So all 4 parcels in total comprise a land area of about 1.6 acres. So the city and its residents that were involved in the process wanted to see a comprehensive design for the whole site that in some way would also give back to the city, recognizing that it would result in a loss of public parking. So there was a desire to see some public parking. There was a desire to see some green space. And beyond that, there were certain financial implications as part of the consideration. So on the one hand, I believe the At Home and Summit project would have depleted the entirety of the city's trust fund. So I think it was about $2 million. Not only that, the city purchased Lot 4, which is the office building, and I believe still owes a note of about $1.4 million on it. So it was always the intent that the site would be developed by a private development entity working with the city as a partner, and that there would be some revenue generated both at the point of sale and also annually as a tax rateable. So as proposed, the proposed development would have cost the city a few $1 million. We actually don't know the exact figure, and that was sort of part of the problem, is that the city would also have been on the hook for any funding shortfalls, as I understand. So again, it's a difference of 7 figures, really undefined at this point. So it's hard for the city to commit as one of many considerations as to why this project, as proposed, was not selected for that site.
If I may, real quick, on that note, no pun intended, but there would have been a significant municipal obligation, excluding the potential to have to bond and/or otherwise finance should the low-income housing tax credits not come through because they're competitively sought and
Millions of dollars.
often do not
Right.
come to fruition.
There would have been a
Is
commitment.
that correct?
Right. So an undefined amount in the 7 figures.
On top of
Right.
a defined amount in the 7 figures,
Correct,
correct?
the shortfall there, right. And also the city's third round plan, which was court certified and based on a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center, indicated that the city would find scattered sites throughout the municipality. So it would not put all of its affordable housing on one site. That would stand out, essentially. And that, again, it would come up with different projects or sites, as this plan does, in the form of group homes, inclusionary development, senior housing, assisted living. It's all in the plan. It's all in the charts, all these different sites. And we heard that there's only one new unit being developed. I don't know how that math was arrived at. I calculated very quickly in a span of about a minute that at least 45 new units would be constructed that don't exist today, and possibly more through overlay zoning and other mechanisms. So to say that Summit will only create one unit in 10 years is just not accurate.